We have somebody waiting.
Okay,
Mike.
please admit. Is it any way possible to make that screen bigger?
Where?
I love it. Thank you. Okay. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Commissioner Wendy Phillips is here. Commissioner Kathy Brent Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Colleen Freed is absent. Commissioner Jim Richards is absent. Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Sorensen, absent. Commissioner Paul Pendergrass.
Here.
Consulting city planner Philip Carlson, is he the one that's in there?
I thought you said it was.
No. I believe it was a Mike.
Where's he hiding?
Two participants.
Mike.
Yeah. Oh, none of those are there, okay.
So, okay, city administrator, I'll mark her here when she gets into the room. So that is roll call. It is time to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any amendments or additions to the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
There's been a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing that there is none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The agenda is approved. So moving into approval of the minutes, we have minutes from two separate meetings to approve. And the first set of meeting minutes is from August 10th. And these minutes have been previously distributed. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Yes, I'd like to change the on the bottom of it, it says agenda, right at the top of the page, it calls it the agenda instead of the minutes.
Oh.
It does that on these minutes and in other sections.
Yes, it would be good to identify them properly. Thank you, Paul.
Do have some changes to the August minutes as well.
Okay.
We'll get back to them. And in addition to where you are calling it minutes instead of agenda, you go to past the beginning there. And then that's the down to where it says note, this item was not properly noticed, and then there's a bunch that was struck out there.
Where are we?
It says this did not get in the paper in time under the public hearings section, so next
Oh,
page.
Okay.
And down below, strike out, the question was asked why. Reason received was that the language was not available and hadn't been drafted yet. Clarification was provided by commissioners that a hard copy of the language was drafted and provided and available at the prior meeting. No other reason was provided on why, just that it was not submitted. So that was for the public hearing.
And that is to replace the statement, this did not get in the paper in time.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna put here replacement, see Kathy.
Yep, I wrote it down here, so I
Okay.
got that. Then if we go to the next page.
Hold on just a second. Okay,
For number 2, where we were doing the variance to paving. Stantec Phil Carlson was not initially present, so Sunny spoke about the request. So that's after the word action, scheduled public hearing and special meeting was crossed out.
mm-hmm.
The city, and if we go back, I did look.
So you want it to say that Phil was not here, so Sunny addressed it.
Yep, so Sunny did address it. And then I do have Stan Tech Phil joined at 7:01 later.
Okay,
So after let's see, we want to make sure variances to the requirements. At that point, I would requested people to be included within. Join us at 7:01. Then we go down.
seven.
At the minutes. Sunny will add this information to.
I don't see where you're talking about.
We are in.
Item are you in?
Just before the financial reports.
Okay, well, this is
That'd
what
be
my
great.
page
Okay.
7 looks like.
Second
For-
paragraph from the bottom. After. If I could add for clarification on what, add this, what is this?
It was the list of.
Want to mute? People are muted.
You're going through the minutes.
And then after the motion by Jim, set the public hearing for the interim use permit consideration.
I'm not looking at the same.
Up here, you can use.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Right. Thank you. We good?
Then after it said zoning code on September 14th at 6:40, where we had scheduled that public hearing. Phil will draft and get to Sunny within 2 weeks, so information can be sent earlier to commissioners.
I'm sorry, say that
What page are you on? 6? or
at the
7?
bottom of page
Page
6.
Just before the financial reports section.
So you wanted to add,
Phil will draft and get to Sunny within 2 weeks, so information can be sent earlier to commissioners. And I can email you this as well.
oh, great. Thanks very much.
I know, I'm trying to keep up too.
I
Can
will-
you email me as well,
I will
please?
just email you.
Thank
both.
you.
If you want to email it to me, then I'll send the revision of.
Then
everyone.
financial reports, the next section 8. In the middle of number 1. In the middle of number 1, I have. The budget also has a line for engineering numbers that need to be rectified. Where it says that. Oh,
Actually, what
my
this-
brain just jumped up.
Yeah,
a
what
line.
this says is the
The
budget also
has a line for engineering fees which are not covered by application fees
Okay,
there, and then it still seems to be, I would put there are problems with these numbers that need to be rectified. And then Then I would add one line in there that says, commission noted that it is
He
difficult.
unmuted himself.
Somebody's coming, oh.
I think.
And there's no record received of funds spent. And then I would jump down into new business. And into the discussion section discussion number 3 under old business. So jumping down some more. Under the RFP for planning services. Then commissioners were provided an 11-page draft of a proposed request for proposal for professional services, planning and land use ordinance update. Then I would, after a line by line reading, so I would insert line by line reading of, and then I would insert each section of the document. And then I would go down to the corrections will be made by the chair and vice chair with the expectation of the proposal getting posted once finalized. And then I do have for the RFP, the changes requested. Semicolon, and then I have a number of bullets.
And this is all additional information to
This
what
would
is
all,
there.
yep,
Yeah.
this would all be
Okay.
additional. So for the RFP, the changes requested. First bullet, by Tuesday, August 15th, Sunny will set up city email for chair, or Wendy will go with Gmail address as drafted. Second, by end of the day, Tuesday, August 15th, Sunny will send Wendy Kathy language samples for pages 5. We have it was pages 5, 10, and 11. Or go with version as drafted. By August 15th, Sunny will obtain graph as discussed or go with the current version. Next bullet, Wendy will check all signage language is removed. Next bullet, by August 15th, Sunny will post current code word version to www.orinoco.com/zoning. Or if not completed, Wendy Kathy will change RFP to indicate just that it's available on the website. Language can be added that this is a draft word version and the official version is on the regular website with the location. Next one was other minor wording changes as discussed by commissioners to be updated by Wendy and Kathy. Once final verbiage received by Sunny at the end of the day, August 15th, or will finalize with noted changes. An addendum could be published at a later time if the information becomes available. And then for items not received by August 15th, Wendy and Kathy will finalize with language as discussed. Oh, I think I said this, and potential addendum can be posted once additional language received. And then I do have a copy of the draft with the just everything highlighted that we had agreed on and talked through on that line by line. To attach to the minutes as well. Under other business, next section down to section 11, just missing the header, posting of the minutes to the website. And then the last line, instead of ideally these, they would be posted within 10 calendar days of approval. And then there was a discussion. Colleen will not be present for the October meeting to take minutes. Sunny mentioned Colleen's value for discussion and could be more of a participant if not taking minutes. Sunny will potentially bring a staff member to the September meeting to train. Staff will start taking minutes in October. And then there's also a copy of the Orinoco Facebook piece that did get handed out at the meeting too,
Right.
that we should include there as a copy of the handout attached to the minutes.
With citizens requesting minutes be
Yep.
posted to the website.
Right,
Right,
yep.
okay.
Just to clarify, this is all in the August minutes, correct?
Yes.
It will be
And what it
in,
was.
yes,
In the final
it
one.
will be in the one that we received, the revised.
Yep. That's what that is the last one I
That
had
is
for
it?
this one. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes with the corrections that Kathy has stated.
very good. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the August tenth meeting as corrected. Is there any further discussion? Seeing there is none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of August tenth, say aye. All those opposed, say no. Minutes for August 10 are approved as corrected. And so we are moving on to the minutes from September 14th. And Jim Phillips and myself are not going to be part of the voting body because we were not present for this meeting. And so,
And we're gonna change the agenda to minutes.
oh, right, at the top of it, it says agenda, so that needs to be changed to minutes.
Oh. On this. Are we gonna, we can't vote on this, or are we gonna discuss this, or we gonna hold these up till next month to just approve these? When there are enough people here to vote on it, it's.
Well, we
Do
have a
we-
quorum right now.
Do we do like we did last month and post the draft version to the website and then come back next month and approve?
hasn't
Well,
been
let me
dra-
ask
been
you a
posted.
question. According to our, do we have constitution and bylaws that outlines all of this type of stuff?
Most of the city operates under a version of Robert's Rules and
Okay.
Order. So once you've had a quorum to call the meeting to order,
Mhm,
then
You
you
can
can
conduct
carry the
business.
business.
mhm.
And then basically the two of you would abstain because
And the two
you
of
weren't
these,
present.
because they were present and the four of us make a quorum, we are good to vote on this. Thank you.
So-
That was what I was
so-
thinking.
So basically, it could end up a 50-50 vote or.
No, you guys will just go
No,
ahead
it's
and
just
do
gonna
it,
be you
so
and Kathy
it'll
that
be
are gonna
over.
end up voting to approve the minutes, so.
If you don't vote as she votes, you're right, it could be a 50-50,
Yes.
and then it would not carry.
Well, I wanna
Yes.
come to go to page 12. Where it says D, the staff report. Says Sunday had spoken with the city attorney, Mike Flaherty. According to state statute. And. You read the paragraph as it says, but I don't recall that being talked about before or during the meeting. So apparently she talked to the staff at first, was Flaherty after the meeting.
No, I thought I relayed that to you.
I guess I don't recall that, but. Well, the thing that brings it up is. The thing that brings it to my attention, and in here it says, according to statute governing body, the city council must hold a public hearing for cannabis legislation. Language for the ordinance was provided in a separate package for the meeting. If we want to ban use of cannabis, vaping, and tobacco on city property, there need to be separate legislation for the city and council and public hearing. And I've heard no discussion of tobacco until that meeting, so
That
that tells me that it didn't have, that happened after our meeting.
Oh, there was,
Do
I
we need,
recall much discussion about the smoking.
Oh, I guess I hadn't heard about
As,
it.
as a smoker, I'm just gonna say, I remember.
yeah, and not being here, I wouldn't have a clue, so.
But I wouldn't say separate legislation, I think that's a separate ordinance. Not a,
Well, I just going by what it says here in the minutes,
yeah, we could,
just reading the minutes.
thank you.
Well, do we need
Do
to
we-
postpone approving these minutes? And maybe listen to the recording
I could probably listen to
And-
the recording and
and
make sure.
would you be willing to
Yep.
do that?
Yep.
Is everybody okay with dispensing of the approval of this set of minutes until the November 9th meeting? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to move the approval of the September 14th meeting minutes to the November 9 meeting so that we have an opportunity to listen to the recording of the meeting and just check those minutes as we're going. Very good.
And we do have the planning and zoning 9/14 draft minutes are already out on the website, so. It's unapproved with watermarks, so we
Okay.
have it very clear that they're unapproved at this point, but they do have them out there, so thank you.
You're
welcome.
All right. So we are going to open the public hearing at this time.
Madam
And-
Chair, if I could
yes.
speak to this for just a moment.
Absolutely.
I thought Phil might be on here by now too, but the situation with this is the, as he's noted, the application is incomplete. Yeah,
I saw.
so all you're going to do then is open it and then move it.
Right,
Kick the can down the road.
right. Yeah, I went through the packet and
Yeah.
so I was aware, but thank you for making sure that I was up to speed on that. So we are opening the public hearing at 6:51 PM. Let's see. a minute. And Ryland, are you gonna be speaking on this tonight? On the public hearing?
I'll pass.
Okay. So first call for public comments. And as we're just waiting for a moment, this is regarding the variance to the front yard setback in City Code Section 151.119. Applicant is SPS Construction LLC, Garrett Sorensen, property owner. And the address of this property, I saw it on here a minute ago. Where is it?
222nd Avenue Northeast.
Thank you. And just so that we have this as a matter of record in here, per Phil Carlson, the city planner, he writes, and I'm only gonna read this one section that states, in this situation, the appropriate thing for the Planning and Zoning Commission to do is open the public hearing since it was duly noticed, but inform those in attendance that the application is incomplete and cannot be considered for recommendation at this time. So we will be moving this item to the next regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of November 9. And so with that being said, just for a matter of record, I am going to
You don't need to close it.
I don't need to close it
No,
because nobody's
That's
here.
where I was going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we just leave it open and does it stay open through the next meeting? And if people want to get up and speak to it at that time, we just revisit this?
Yeah, it
And
will
pick
have
up.
to be reposted.
Okay,
One question here is, planning and zoning didn't schedule this meeting, so is that something that can be done without planning and zoning approving the meeting? Approving the public hearing? I didn't know how that worked. I thought planning and zoning had to.
Had to ask for a
ask
public-
for those public hearings.
It's not necessarily, normally, it's just a part of the administrative process of getting it things to you and getting them timely and, as you know, my practice, yes, has been to give you heads up at a meeting and then ask you to, you know.
Apparently this
To
came
vote
in,
on it.
apparently this came in that day or the day after. Came in the day of our last public hearing, correct?
Well, that was kind of it's another one of these
Came in
goofy ones.
September 11th, so it
11th, it
came
was a
in
Monday.
3 days before we had our last meeting,
So too late to get it on the,
last month's, but we would have. So we've had it, what, 33 days now or 34 days, something like that.
but it's still incomplete, so it's not it's.
So the clock hasn't started.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so we are through the public hearing, item 5. Financial reports.
I'm hoping that I have these figured out. Yeah, maybe. Yes. So remember last month, I had that extra sheet in there where I had pulled out, made that adjustment for pulling out the engineering. I didn't, oh yeah. you
I
were
wasn't
here.
here,
I'm not-
so I
Sorry,
don't
Madam
remember.
Chair. I'm looking at you.
That's okay. That's totally okay.
And that makes sense why you're looking at me like, okay, so, we did get those journal entries out of there, so now you are not seeing that. So what you're seeing now is on page 16, last year's budget of 69,000. Actual year-to-date spent was 724,831. I didn't move any of those or do any journal entries or instruct Renee to do that. But this year we did get those non-planning and zoning fees pretty much moved out of there. The SEH still should be, more of a, not planning and zoning, but, park and rec, park and trail. Making progress. So of your budget for this year of just under 125,000, year to date through September, is 37,000 plus change. And then for the month of September, that far right column is $7,000. And on page 17, the first two columns will remain the same because we don't have an amended budget. It just sticks the same numbers in there unless you do an amended budget. There's the 37,165 year-to-date actual, the current month, and the far right unencumbered balance of your budget is $87,779.10. And then page 18 is the detail for those, that $7,000 expended during the month of September.
And then with the wages and the health benefits and employee benefits and all of that. All of this, the payroll taxes, this is just the percentage that planning and zoning pays for the office staff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And at the very bottom, the SEH, again, that one that's 1,700, that one is not technically zoning that you said, SEH is the park and rec.
Correct.
And trails or something like that.
Park and rec in most cities.
Yeah, yeah.
It's ordinal color people.
Is that it for financial reports?
Do you have any questions?
The question that I have is, how are we doing on picking a new software program so that we can divide all of this stuff out appropriately, understand what we have coming in, what we have going out, and that way possibly being able to adjust our fee schedules and things like that to make it more balanced with what it is that it costs us to do this and what we're taking in. It'd just be so helpful to know exactly what is happening instead of this big general bucket that everything's going into.
all the revenues.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's been a matter of time for Renee and I to do this. We've got it, I think I said this last time, narrowed down to two. And, really need to look at what our, costs, because there's a big difference between the two of them, and one of them, I'm trying to, like you do when you're doing your market analysis, you make adjustments for the things that one is including and one is not. Because then that means that we're gonna have to utilize the accounting services of our accounting / audit. Keep them arms length apart, but they are the same company, so.
Because I know that
It's kind of-
having been here 2 months ago, this was the same conversation that we had 2 months ago. And I know that you and Renee were really shooting for the end of the year being the point at which
Right.
you were ready to start converting things over. And so I'm just hoping that we're really gonna hit that target, because I think it's gonna be beneficial all the way
Oh,
around.
I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Mhm.
One of the issues that took a significant amount of my time is probably know that the city was served with a lawsuit
Mhm.
the end of August. And we had 20 days to respond to that complaint. That was asking for accounting data that goes back to 2001, 2002. Which is preceding, that's QuickBooks.
Mhm.
That precedes what the current system is that was brought online in
Right.
2009. I think it was purchased and actually implemented January 1, 2010.
So you had 8 years you had to reconstruct, sort of going
Well-
back to 2001.
Well, just trying to get access to
Mhm.
QuickBooks because we don't, it's not an active subscription anymore. So it was a QuickBooks Business Pro or Premier Pro 2008, which of course isn't even supported anymore by QuickBooks, and but it's just been very stressful, very time consuming, trying to find information. And ultimately what we were able to get is an extension in time for filing the answer until October 6th. Last week.
So out of curiosity, if you can't access, if you can't access it, is there some place that we've kept a hard copy? You know what I mean? And so
There,
a computer got a digital copy somewhere.
we did find some discs. CDs. And my computer does tell me that is QuickBooks data. But again, when trying to access it through QuickBooks, the program piece of it, so the data files we have, we just don't have access to open them up.
Because they don't have the program support available
Right.
anymore.
Because the software is that old.
It was that old.
Yes.
So basically QuickBooks has control of something that
We've got control of our data file, but we don't have the software to access it. And,
same difference.
yeah,
Unavailable to us.
Yeah.
QuickBooks owns it there.
So
Do what they want to do with it.
So the answer, in short, is city denies all claims and leaves it to the complainant to prove. But so I must tell you, as of Friday night, I finally started sleeping well again. I mean, it was just weighing on me that much, that it was, because that now gives me pause, right? Okay, so we're looking at doing the same thing, shifting
To another
accounting
program.
system, so not that I'm not willing to do that, but Renee just found out today that we are actually 2 versions behind on updates for the system that we have. So those things, some of those things that have been frustrations for me that we've not been able to accomplish. She finds out, well, if we had those two upgrades,
Might have been able to
we
access
might have
it.
been able to,
Wow.
to make the current system better.
Wow.
And then it's a matter of changing the, just chart of accounts stuff, even though you have all that old data. But
Yeah, and for me, if this were my bookkeeping system, I would, because I know that I would probably find myself in the same exact situation. But from this point moving forward, I think I would be doing regular printouts of numbers and archiving them as hard copies, you know, with
you
the
and I are
big,
print
with the
people.
big red flashing light over it that says financials.
Yeah,
So what are the name of the two programs we're looking at?
one is Banyan and the other one has three
How do you spell it? Pronounce it?
BAN.
Banyan?
YON.
They're out of Burnsville. That's the one that I'm most familiar with. Most cities that I've been involved with have used Banyan. Their service has always been, in my view, stellar. They do this other one that Renee likes a little bit better, and I'm deferring to her because I have enough on my plate without taking on the finances too, but other than, you know, trying to do the overall analysis and get the reports to the people that need them. But it has to be user friendly, and it has 3 initials, and I'm sorry that they're not coming to mind. But that one does have some opportunities for residents to like log into their own utility account and see what their bill is rather than a
Having
phone
to
call
call
to
the
city,
office.
yeah, and having us relay that. So there are pros and cons to that, right? And we talked about this earlier today, you know, we have different demographics. Some are gonna continue to wanna make the phone call anyway. And there's something to be said for that human interaction. But then you have another demographic that, you know, if they don't have to see. a
They don't need
person,
human interaction.
I just know when I've been part of the data breaches or something that's gonna preserve data breaches in a situation like that, where people, customers are gonna be logging into their own accounts. Kind of like something tells me that's sort of a big red flag up to start with. That
That's usually something that when you go with the vendor though, depending on are we saving it in-house or using their cloud version, that's usually something that you look at as part of the contract review. Is how do they back that up? How do they protect it?
Right.
And if it's not being hosted in the cloud, then we are in charge of making sure our own system is backed up.
That's
and
why I want to
restored.
just make sure that we're not buying the best of the last. You know,
That'd be part of
people
your
think
vendor
it's
management review type of,
Government,
that's when you want to look at a SOC 2 to see what their security audits are for the vendor that you go with.
governments have a tendency to go with the cheapest version of what they can get to make things function, and sometimes you end up with a mess that wasn't originally intended.
Yeah, I forget, I think we interviewed 5, maybe 6. I think the one that she likes, I think is the one that I wasn't able to sit in on,
Oh, on the
So-
presentation.
yeah. So there was that and, what else was the other big thing? I mean, we've had several big things. Right now, not only Riverwood Hills situation. Cedar Woodlands 3rd. We got a couple of issues going on there, so.
I just thought of something. I'll talk to you.
And I apologize for being late. I had to finish up that payroll or people, but I only worked 117 hours this last pay period, so that's down from pay period before.
So with the software, do you guys still think that you're you and Renee still think that you're gonna be able to come to a conclusion and get that ball rolling before the end of the year, or has your time frame on that adjusted according to everything else that's going on?
I guess I'm thinking regardless, my commitment really to you is to, even if we end up not rolling out with the new software until maybe the end of first quarter next year, I'll still work on getting you some better revenue numbers. Just like that Excel sheet I gave you last time, we'll have to pull some things out.
Last time on September 14th.
So I do know last month when we were doing budget and everything else, we had asked for a list of permits at least each month, and we had asked for the dollar amounts that are coming in with them, and you said the dollar amounts probably would be too much time and effort at this point, but at least we could get the list of permits each month that were coming through. I did notice our packet didn't include permit lists, and last month we had talked about that one had missed it as well. So this month we were gonna get the August and the September one, so can next month we get the 3 months that we should be looking at least? We're trying to
Maybe I'll
gauge.
give you a quarter.
Yeah, we're trying to gauge just what's coming through so that we can really figure out what is the most important part of code as well that we need to be working on as we're going through this whole process. Just where's our priority with our citizens? What is coming through? But I think the second part of that is with the software that we do want to try and get a better idea of what's coming in expense wise, because when we think about what are we charging for fees, not that we know our fees are going to even come close necessarily to cover what our expenses are, but how much do you subsidize on everybody else that lives in town? We want to be fair, still attract people to come to town, but be fair about it as well.
Right. And, okay, so there are two different software things that you may be talking about too. Because there's one that is specifically set up. We have the accounting and utility is totally separate from, and payroll is totally separate from the permitting software. And it's the reports that I've been able to pull out, and I'm I'm fairly tech savvy, but what I don't like about it is that for every component of the fee that's going into that permit, it's also gonna list the same value, right? Like $20,000 on a deck. Okay, you're gonna have footings, you're gonna have your framing, you're gonna have, say you have, and we have the zoning review and the building review. So you have those different components that make up what the total fee of the permit charge is. But for each of those components, it's gonna say your value is $20,000, which totally skews if you're looking for total value of the work being performed in the city.
And I think
So
we're
it's
hoping
kind
the
of-
software, whichever one of the two magic softwares will hopefully bring us closer to getting a real number there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We
Yeah.
have that software already in place. Just the reports are a little bit goofy, and that may just be that we haven't had the time to sit through a demo to figure that out.
Even if the numbers are kind of skewed, can it produce a list of permits from this date to this date? And you could put, current report and it would give you those dates, or even if the numbers aren't right, just for us to get a feel of what kind of volume is going through would be helpful for us, because we're getting ready to, really launch into this growth of the city, and just having an idea of the different things that are going on all around us would just be helpful. It feels kind of like,
Right.
flying blind right now a little bit.
Well, and a lot of them, I can tell you, historically, I'm told that historically, Renee's
For a
got
year.
seniority and she's been here for
2
2
years,
years and
yeah.
so historically, I think you've run about 100 permits per year. We just issued, I think today, number 123.
123 for the year.
Yeah. And I know the report that you want and back when it was Southeast Business Building Inspections. Roger and Casey used to give us that report that not only told you how many permits there were and what they were for and what the total value was. That's, I think. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you looking for the revenue side for each of those permits?
Well, and we want to know too, what's
Oh.
going on in the city that is transforming,
Yeah,
you know, just to have an overview of kind of,
okay,
what is going on. That's what I'm looking for. It's just an idea of what is going on in the city. And as a planning and zoning commission, I think that all of us feel like we'd like to have a little bit more information about those types of things.
Okay.
Just because it makes us feel like we understand what's going on in the city as we are planning for this growth,
yeah, and some of it. May be irrelevant, because I mean, if you have, we had hailstorm. So the mayor and a whole mess of other people had re-roofs.
Yeah, almost
Okay,
everybody
so-
in our neighborhood got
Yeah.
roofs.
So,
Surprise.
those permit fees are $50, so. I mean, that's,
There's probably a certain amount of that you are gonna see every year,
right,
so.
yeah.
Well, if we were at
It's still there,
103 last month and we've put on another 20 since last month,
Hmm.
that's 4 to 5 a week at least.
Mhm.
But are they decks, swimming pools or houses or?
That's
don't
what we
know.
don't know.
Yeah, that's what we'd
Because we're trying to
like
figure
to
out.
know.
Yep,
They are not houses, I can tell you that.
so.
Yeah. I think you've got one of mine in there for my Generac that's gotta be taken care of and.
There's a difference too between taking a permit application in, signing it a number, and then having it go back out. So we've been in, Mayor Ikorst joined us we meet with CMS every 2 weeks because this has been a real transition for us in terms of how they are serving the city based on their growth versus what we were able to get from Roger and Casey when they had, 3 communities that they served. I mean, we had stuff turned around, housing, new home construction turned around in 2-3 days. That's not happening. So there has been significant improvement, but one of the things we're talking about too is the fees. And the structure. You can charge differently if you're a 2-man shop versus if you have significant overhead and we obviously have experience where we know that our fees don't come near what we need to, and there's on my listserv that I'm on, there's a lot of discussion about as we're doing these budgets, making sure that we're at least closing the gap a little bit. Because, unfortunately, you may still end up with someone who works the system and ends up like not paying their fair share, let's say, for their project, so.
Okay, well, thank you. That was helpful just to have that conversation and to continue having it so that we know where we're at in the process.
Thank you. And then I thought of what the other big thing was, the budget. That took a good deal of work. So,
All right.
And you know that Mary has moved on.
Mhm.
So,
Where'd you go again?
she came from the medical field and she went back to medical.
Okay, so are we done with financial reports? Very good. We have no new business. In old business, item 1 is a discussion revising lot sizes with possible action to schedule public hearing.
I make a motion that we table this, since we're looking at what we're doing right now. With having, new people come in and changing the
Talking
codes
about
and.
the planning, the
Yeah.
city planner
And I think
interviews.
everything needs to come together and this is out of place for what we have going on, so I make that request to table this.
I think that you need to make it as a motion.
I make a motion to table this until we,
So there's been a motion to table item 1 under old business. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So it has been moved and seconded to table item 1 under old business. Is there, oh, I was gonna say, is there any discussion?
Sorry.
That's okay.
The only issue is that we did have an applicant, remember? And because of the report, we were able, he did pull that, but this is, this is a classic case of where we first discussed it in July of last year. And I do understand what you're saying. It's all
I mean,
part
we're
of
right in
this,
the
but-
middle of all this stuff that's going on, and this is all gonna fit in what we need, and trying to move ahead, I think, is not the right way to do it. So, that's why I wanna do that and table this, so we pick who we're gonna do and what direction we're gonna go. with
Yeah.
that.
And I'm just a little concerned, Commissioner, because when the weather is starting to change now, admittedly, we've got, probably some time to table it. But come spring, when we want to start seeing activity again, I don't know if the RFP award is going to have us in a position to be acting on that either.
Well, if
That's-
it comes up at that time, then I think we could take a look at it at that time, but
I
right
think
now,
with
I
our
think
initial
we're.
discussions with the, whatever vendor we end up going with, I think that could certainly be. When we're talking about, here's our list of things we've already identified, here's the list of things we wanna
Mhm.
work in, I think that might be an ideal time to say, this is at the top of our list.
Right.
We know we
Exactly.
want it in the big group, but knowing that we have some pressing needs, let's get that language done first, maybe we can adopt that as a text amendment to get us through this period
Absolutely.
until we can do the bigger piece.
Exactly.
Have it in addition to the RFP part.
Absolutely. So I
And I
I
guess
do
that's
agree with
where
that.
I'm going with it, is because that was something that Phil had worked on. And he's already expended dollars or time for that. We've expended the dollars, he's expended the time. And it is a little bit outside of the RFP perhaps, but maybe not.
Well, think of it as, nobody says Phil is gonna be working on it afterward either.
Yeah. So we don't know yet, we'll wait till tomorrow, we're gonna do that one, so.
Well, we historically been reactionary, right? And so this was another one of those cases where at that point in time, we did have an application and so back that up, so. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion?
I'm okay with tabling it at this time, but I do think when we do get into our initial discussions on what we're thinking our priorities should be, and we want them to do the analysis, I think it's very appropriate for us to tell them, here's our list of things we've already identified. We know they're going to identify more, but if they could bump that to the top,
I agree a
I mean,
100%, I do.
just
I do.
because we do
I
have.
just wanna
some
combine it
active-
like we've got, so we've got
Absolutely.
everything the same, so.
Sonny, you say there's somebody that's already applied or tried asking to do.
They've repulled, they're not. They
They
rescinded
would
it.
still like to do it, but if we're not gonna be able to move forward on it, then we'll, I've agreed to. They've agreed to let us hold their application fee. Withdraw the application, but hold the fee until thinking that we could get this done yet this year.
And this is the
But
one
it'll-
that's for the lot split?
Yes,
Mhm.
so that the daughter can build next door. Which is another. Thinking about the money, another water and sewer user, right?
Mhm.
So-
Maybe water.
So, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to the vote. All those in favor of tabling item 1 under old business, please say aye. All those opposed say no. Motion is passed. We are tabling item 1 for discussion. And item 2 under old business is update RFP planning for planning services. So what do we have here? We did 2 interviews today. I know that.
Yeah,
We've got one more tomorrow and then a special meeting to figure out who we want to recommend.
we, looking at what was in the RFP, we had anticipated having interviews this week. We didn't know that one would go to Friday, but we were hoping to be able to have, the commission's consideration and recommendation come out of tonight's meeting. And now we have that special meeting
Okay.
tomorrow.
So that was what this update was about?
Yeah,
Well, and
Well,
we,
and
and we
just-
handled that in a timely manner, and so it'll be one day later, but
It'll
it's
still
gonna
get to
be done
council.
for the city council meeting.
And this was a holiday week on top of that, so short
Oh, that's
week,
right.
filled,
huh.
nothing
for some.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we then are on track, I think, given the schedule.
I think we're on track with the schedule as well. Very good. So item 2 is handled as of tomorrow afternoon. Placeholder discussion, item 3, prioritizing list of known code changes. A, understanding items from 2022 meeting minutes. These items were in the 810 agenda packet. The attachments were planning and zoning minutes from 9/8/22, city council minutes from 9/20/22, and planning and zoning minutes from 10/13/22. So this is something that you put into the agenda. Sunny, would you like to speak to this, as to, you've got it as a placeholder? Are you just keeping it as a placeholder so we're sure that it doesn't drop off of our radar?
Right, and
Okay.
at some point in time, I think it would be helpful if Kathy, we could combine our list and get that prepared. And just as you were citing these things, I know the smaller lot sizes goes back to July, so that wasn't even on here, but it is part of that. So, yeah, just kind of wanting to keep those on our radar
Okay.
and
And so as we are
once we hand it
making the
off.
recommendation for the city planner the firm that we want to go with, provided that we get the approval for that and we're able to move forward, we're going to move this from placeholder into the list of things that you two are creating that we are going to be submitting to our contracted city planner. Very good. So can we go ahead and move this to the next agenda as a placeholder also? And if we're able to deal with it at that point, take it from placeholder to list to city planner, then we'll start making those moves. Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Very good.
If I could ask too, maybe, because one of the things that came out of one of the interviews today, and I think both of them have the same kind of approach too, but one specifically said a steering committee.
Uh-huh.
And I do think that may be helpful in terms of having representation from this body, from EDA, from council, and you're all on everything, but at least making sure that those three bodies get
Absolutely.
on the same page in terms
Yeah,
of.
and I think that's so important on what's going on with what they have, because, you know, the code changes are gonna fit into everything that's going on, so I agree, I agree.
And they're gonna have to be, the EDA will be the, you know, the marketing arm, if you will, and.
But they should at least know everything that's going on, and so the communication is gonna be very important with what goes on with that, so.
And at one meeting, the mayor did share kind of an overview of the city, what has been developed, what the potential that's still out there. That sort of thing, but they're also looking kind of at branding, when I hear the word place, because we've talked about preserving what makes.
And then that
Orinoco
was a
unique.
part of the mayor's presentation too, is to turn around and to do that and work with that, so.
Yeah.
I think that all fits together with what was going on for what was happening with that, so.
But it is key so that we're not either missing each other altogether in these three different bodies, or we have redundancy happening and we're spending time unnecessarily. You guys have already figured something out and we're 10 steps or 3 steps behind or whatever. We could catch up real quickly if there is that steering committee where we can each go back to our separate bodies and report
Mhm.
on what it is that's
Could also,
happening in the body as a whole.
could also help us find spots that we're actually missing in code too, if
Yeah,
we're talking
exactly.
about something,
Absolutely.
making sure that does get codified one way or the other.
Very good.
And I like the one that said. We're gonna stub our toe, you know, kind of once in a while, you may, you know, we all have this plan, right? And plans can change for whatever reason, and there needs to be that flexibility.
There
But
does need to
yeah.
be that.
Never seen a project implementation that went exactly as the original plan stated. Just haven't seen that.
Mm-mm.
You probably won't either, if they're being realistic.
No
that's
reason to
right.
start now.
So. Is that
And
next?
So item number 4, placeholder, discussion, flood map update. Is that something that we
I
can?
think we need to
flip
do that
now?
all in the same with what's going on. This is all wrapped up in.
This is the placeholder also, so we'll roll this forward and with the new contract, whoever that is with, these are gonna be on those lists and we are gonna be prioritizing for them and letting them know what our need is.
Yeah.
So, great, if we can keep these placeholders
'Cause I
in
think-
place.
The future land use map is 2020, so it's not as dated as some of the other
It's
things.
2020, but when we went back and looked at what changes were made, it was really specifically just the sewer changes were all that really looked like were the changes.
Oh,
that-
from the 2016?
When you go backwards and look at prior
Mhm.
ones,
Mm-hmm.
you can see the fluke map change. And the changes are literally, you know, adding some of the infrastructure stuff for the sewer. I think that was that what it was when I looked back there? But irregardless, whatever it was, I do know the one change we've identified so far is potentially putting, you know, just like we have the green dot over here for the parks and buffers, we don't have anything on this side at all for public and institution. So if we ever do want to do some type of future city land over there for emergency
Emergency
services,
services.
just looking at we don't have that redundancy right now on both sides of our highway. If one bridge is down, we've got a bottleneck, and if 2 bridges are down, we're in real trouble. So I know that was the one thing we for sure identified so far, that we do need to at least put a little
Address,
bit of
yeah.
blue on that side.
Mm-hmm.
And what else we might be missing, I don't know.
Alrighty, so we have moved through our agenda. Is there anything that anybody needs to discuss that was left undone? Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion is carried. We are adjourned at 7:34 p.m.
Wow. Rather, we can make a longer one if you want. I said, we can make a longer meeting if you want.
I was gonna say, I think we've been averaging like 4 hours
Yeah,
in
so-
recent months.
Last time.
Observe an hour meeting.
Or 11.